All right, so we are diving into some pretty intense stuff today. Wildfires ripping through LA.
Yeah, it's definitely a situation that's unfolding rapidly.
And we've got this firsthand account from Time magazine.
Yeah.
And wow, it paints a pretty dramatic picture.
Yeah, some really powerful imagery and stories coming out of this.
We're talking thousands fleeing their homes, firefighters just battling these intense flames.
And multiple fires burning, across the region.
Yeah, and you got to see some of these details in this article. I mean, people stuck in traffic jams.
Oh, wow.
Caused by others evacuating on foot.
Oh, gosh.
And there's even an account of a senior living center evacuating residents in wheelchairs.
Oh, my good.
As embers are raining down around them.
That's just wild.
It's crazy.
It really gives you a sense the urgency and the danger of this situation.
Yeah, absolutely.
And what's really interesting about this particular event is just how these fires are behaving.
Right.
The Santa Ana winds, notorious for their role in just fanning California wildfires. They're back in full force.
Oh, gosh.
Yeah, we're talking wind speeds, over 60 miles per hour with gusts potentially hitting over 100 in the mountains.
Oh, wow.
You combine that with the incredibly dry conditions. Southern California hasn't had decent rainfall since early May.
Oh, wow.
So you put those two things together and you've got a recipe for extremely rapid fire spread.
Yeah, and the article mentions 3 separate wildfires that are currently burning,
Wow.
one near a nature preserve, another in Silmar.
Mm-hmm.
But the one that seems to be getting the most attention is the Pacific Palisades fire.
Yeah, that's where we're going to focus our deep dives today.
Exactly.
And the Palisades fire, is particularly noteworthy just because of its location.
Right.
And the level of detail that we have in our source material.
So you might be wondering, what's Pacific Palisades all about?
Yeah, it's not exactly a place you typically associate with these kind of blazes.
No, picture this, a beautiful, affluent coastal community known for its celebrity residents.
Yeah.
I mean, it's even been immortalized in that Beach Boys song, Surfing USA.
Exactly. It's a very different image than what we're seeing right now.
Right, and it really underscores how these fires can impact even those areas that we might perceive as, safe or protected.
Absolutely.
And the Time article really dives into the experience of one resident, Kelsey Trainer, who found herself trapped in her neighborhood as the fire jumped the road.
Yeah.
Imagine the chaos, people abandoning their cars, fleeing on foot, carrying their belongings, babies, even their pets.
It's a scramble for survival.
Yeah.
When something like that happens.
It sounds like a scene from a disaster movie.
Yeah, I mean, the article mentions the gridlock caused by abandoned cars blocking emergency vehicles.
Oh, wow.
They actually had to bring in a bulldozer to clear a path.
Can you imagine the stress and the fear that those people must have felt?
Oh, absolutely. And, it highlights a really critical aspect of wildfire preparedness.
Mm-hmm.
Accessibility and inclusivity.
Mm-hmm.
What happens when you can't just hop in your car and drive away.
Right.
We need to consider the needs of those with mobility challenges, the elderly, families with young children, everyone in the community.
You're right. And that image from the article of the senior living center staff evacuating residents in wheelchairs with embers falling around them, it's incredibly powerful.
It's a powerful image.
It really makes you think about those challenges of
Definitely.
ensuring everyone's safety during these events.
It really speaks to the importance of community networks.
Yeah.
It's often neighbors helping neighbors, friends, and family stepping up to support those who need it most.
The article also captures the perspective of another resident, Will Adams, who's lived in Pacific Palisades for a long time.
Oh, wow.
He talks about witnessing the fire's terrifying speed, describing the sky turning black, transformers exploding, and this overwhelming sense that this was something completely unprecedented for the area.
Those firsthand accounts are so valuable.
Yeah.
They offer just this raw emotional understanding of what it's like to experience these events firsthand.
Yeah, and it's not just about property damage.
Right.
It's about the emotional and psychological toll.
The fear, the uncertainty, the
Mhm.
disruption to people's lives.
And speaking of firsthand accounts, we can't ignore the celebrity angle.
Yeah.
Actor James Woods, who lives in Pacific Palisades, shared some pretty dramatic footage of the fire on social media.
Oh, wow. I haven't seen that.
Flames just ripping through the hillside near his home. It's a sobering reminder of the power of these fires.
And social media has definitely changed the way we experience and process these events, right?
Mhm.
It provides this window into the real-time unfolding of the disaster.
Absolutely, and it's not just homes that are at risk. The article also mentions that the Getty Villa Museum,
Oh, wow.
which houses a world-renowned collection of ancient art, it sustained some fire damage to its grounds.
Oh, no.
Thankfully, the collection and the staff are safe, but
That's good.
it highlights another crucial aspect of these disasters,
Yeah.
the potential loss of cultural and historical treasures.
Absolutely. Even if a collection is physically safe, the damage to the surrounding environment, the landscape that forms part of its context, can be significant and irreplaceable.
It's a good reminder that the impact of these wildfires goes beyond just the immediate damage, you know?
Right.
It affects communities, cultural institutions, and even disrupts just everyday life. The article mentions canceled movie premieres and schools being relocated.
Yeah. And, those are just the immediate effects.
Right.
Think about the long-term economic consequences.
Yeah.
The impact on tourism.
Yeah.
The psychological toll on those who've lost their homes or businesses.
Right.
The recovery process can take years, even decades.
Yeah, it's a long road to recovery.
Absolutely.
It's clear these fires have this ripple effect that reaches far beyond the immediate fire zone.
Yeah, they really do.
So let's zoom out a bit.
Okay.
And consider the bigger picture here. What can you tell us about the underlying causes and contributing factors to these events?
Well, you can't talk about wildfires in California without addressing, the elephant in the room, climate change.
Right.
Those dry conditions and the intense Santa Ana winds that we've been talking about, they're not isolated incidents. They're part of a larger pattern of increasingly extreme weather events that are driven by, the warming of our planet.
So we're not just dealing with a random string of bad luck here.
Right.
These fires are becoming more frequent and intense due to climate change.
Exactly. As global temperatures rise, we see changes in weather patterns, prolonged droughts, earlier snowmelt, which all contribute to drier vegetation and create ideal conditions for wildfires to ignite and spread rapidly.
Right.
And these trends are only expected to worsen in the coming years, as the climate continues to change.
Okay. So we've got climate change contributing to these extreme fire conditions, but I'm curious about the role of human actions.
Right.
How much of this can be attributed to things like forest management practices or development in fire-prone areas?
That's a crucial point. While climate change is a significant factor, it's not the whole story. Human actions play a complex and often interconnected role in wildfire behavior. Take, for instance, the concept of fire regimes.
Okay.
The historical patterns of fire frequency, intensity, and severity in a particular ecosystem.
Right.
And over the past century, we've significantly altered these fire regimes.
Okay.
Through fire suppression, logging practices, and development that encroaches into wildland areas.
So by trying to prevent all fires, we've inadvertently created conditions that make these massive destructive fires more likely.
That's the irony. Fire is a natural part of many ecosystems, and suppressing it for decades has led to a buildup of fuel, dead trees, underbrush, dry vegetation.
Right.
Now, when fires do ignite, they have much more to burn, making them more intense and difficult to control.
That makes sense. So if fire suppression has contributed to the problem, what are some alternative approaches to managing wildfires? I've heard about controlled burns. Is that part of the solution?
Prescribed burns or controlled burns are a critical tool in wildfire management. They involve intentionally setting small, controlled fires under specific conditions to reduce fuel loads, improve forest health, and restore natural fire regimes.
Interesting.
Think of it as fighting fire with fire in a carefully planned and managed way.
So we're basically using fire as a tool to prevent larger, more destructive fires down the line.
Exactly. It's about shifting our perspective from solely suppressing fire to managing it in a way that benefits both human communities and the ecosystem.
Right.
And prescribed burns aren't the only tool in the toolbox. Other strategies include forest thinning, creating defensible spaces around homes, and educating communities about wildfire preparedness.
Speaking of defensible spaces, can you elaborate on what that means?
Sure.
I think it's important for those of us living in fire-prone areas to understand how we can make our homes and properties more resistant to wildfire damage.
Absolutely. Creating a defensible space involves modifying the area around your home to reduce flammable vegetation and create a buffer zone between your house and potential wildfires. Right. It includes things like clearing brush and dead trees within a certain radius of your home, pruning trees to elevate their canopies, and using fire-resistant landscaping materials.
Okay.
These measures can significantly increase your home's chances of surviving a wildfire.
So it's about taking proactive steps to create a safer environment around your property. What about community-level preparedness? What role do local communities play in mitigating wildfire risk?
Community-level preparedness is absolutely essential.
Okay.
It involves things like developing community wildfire protection plans, organizing neighborhood cleanups to reduce fuel loads, and working together to create evacuation routes and support systems for vulnerable residents. The stronger the community network, the more resilient it will be in the face of a wildfire.
It sounds like we need a multi-pronged approach, combining proactive management strategies with community-level preparedness, and of course addressing the underlying issue of climate change.
You've hit the nail on the head. There's no single solution to this complex challenge. It requires a comprehensive and collaborative effort from individuals, communities, land managers, and policymakers.
Yeah.
We need to think long-term invest in preventative measures,
Yeah.
and adapt our strategies as the climate continues to change.
And it's clear these fires aren't just a California problem, right? We're
Right.
seeing increasingly intense and frequent wildfires in other parts of the world as well.
You're absolutely right. Wildfires are a global issue, and the lessons we're learning in California about fire behavior management strategies and the importance of community preparedness
Yeah.
have relevance far beyond our borders.
All right, we've covered a lot of ground here, from the immediate impact of these Los Angeles fires to the broader context of climate change and wildfire management strategies.
Yeah, it's been a good discussion.
But what about the human side of this story?
Right.
We've heard those powerful firsthand accounts from residents,
Yes.
but I'm curious to hear more about the long-term psychological and emotional impacts of these events.
It's something we often overlook in the aftermath of these disasters.
Yeah.
The trauma of losing a home, witnessing your community go up in flames, the fear and uncertainty, those are very real and lasting effects.
And it's not just about the immediate experience, right?
No?
There's also the ongoing stress of living in a fire-prone area, knowing that these events are becoming more common.
Exactly. Wildfire anxiety is a real and growing concern.
Right.
People are constantly on edge, worried about the next fire, and that constant state of alertness can take a toll on mental and emotional well-being.
So beyond the physical preparedness, what are some things people can do to cope with the psychological and emotional stress of living with the threat of wildfires?
One important step is to stay informed, but not overwhelmed. It's good to be aware of the risks and to have a plan in place, but it's also crucial to avoid getting sucked into a constant cycle of news and social media updates that can fuel anxiety.
So finding that balance between being prepared and not letting fear consume you.
Exactly.
What else can people do to manage that anxiety?
Well, there are a number of things that can help. Mindfulness techniques like meditation and deep breathing exercises can be very effective in calming the nervous system. Connecting with nature, even in small ways, can also be grounding and restorative.
Okay.
And of course, building a strong support network is essential. Talking to friends, family, or a therapist can be incredibly helpful in processing those feelings of stress and anxiety.
Yeah, it sounds like it's about finding those coping mechanisms, that work for you, whether it's mindfulness, connecting with nature, or reaching out to your support network.
Exactly.
And it's okay to ask for help if you're struggling.
Mm-hmm.
There are resources available like mental health hotlines and support groups specifically for people dealing with the emotional impact of these events.
Absolutely. It's important to remember you're not alone in this. These are shared experiences.
Yeah.
And seeking support can make a huge difference.
We've talked about preparedness, resilience,
Yeah.
the psychological toll of these wildfires,
Mm-hmm.
the role of climate change.
Right.
But this question keeps coming back to me, like, how do we balance our desire to live in these beautiful fire-prone areas
Right.
with the increasing risks posed by climate change?
Yeah.
Is it even possible?
That's the million-dollar question, isn't it?
Yeah.
There are no easy answers.
Right.
It's a complex issue
Right.
involving individual choices, community planning, land management policies, and that overarching challenge of climate change.
So it's not just about putting out fires.
Yeah.
It's about rethinking how we live and interact with our environment.
Precisely. We need to find ways to coexist with fire, to manage it in a way that protects both human lives and the natural ecosystems we depend on.
That sounds like a tall order.
It is. It's going to require a collective effort,
Mhm.
from individuals, communities, and governments worldwide.
Right.
We need to acknowledge that wildfires are not going away.
Mm-hmm.
In fact, they're likely to become more frequent and intense as the climate continues to change.
So what can we do?
Right.
What steps can we take?
Yeah.
Starting today to create a future where wildfires are not a constant source of fear and destruction.
Well, first and foremost, we need to prioritize mitigation and preparedness.
Okay.
This means investing in forest management practices like prescribed burns and thinning,
Mm-hmm.
creating defensible spaces around homes and communities, and developing robust early warning systems.
And what about the role of individuals?
Yeah.
What can we do in our own lives to make a difference?
There's a lot you can do. Start by educating yourself about wildfire risks in your area
Okay.
and taking steps to prepare your home and property.
Right.
Get involved in community wildfire protection efforts, support policies that promote sustainable land management practices, and advocate for action on climate change.
It sounds like individual actions combined with collective efforts at the community and governmental levels can make a real difference.
Absolutely. Every action, no matter how small, contributes to building a more fire-resilient future.
Yeah.
It's about recognizing that we're all in this together and that we have the power to create positive change.
Well, that's an inspiring note to end on.
Yeah.
This deep dive into the Los Angeles wildfires has been a stark reminder of the challenges we face in this era of climate change.
Right.
But it's also highlighted our capacity for resilience, innovation, and collaboration.
Absolutely. It's a call to action for all of us.
Mm-hmm.
We have the knowledge, the tools, and the collective will to create a world where we can coexist with wildfires, not fear it.
And on that note, we'll leave you with this final thought.
Okay.
Think about the steps you can take in your own life, your community, and beyond to contribute to a future where wildfires are a natural part of a healthy and thriving ecosystem. Stay curious, stay informed, and stay engaged.
Great advice.
Until next time.
Thank you, dear MMS Stories channel followers. We will be happy if you subscribe to the channel, like the story, share it, and comment on it.